What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and welcome to episode 2 of the Let's Play. It's absolutely amazed at the response from the first episode. Really enjoyed doing it, so I'm super excited to be back for round 2. Now, if I sound a little tired or groggy, my daughter was up for a couple hours last night, so I'm feeling a little spaced out, but we're going to battle through and we're going to see how we do. Now, off camera, I cleared out my inventory because I had a few bits and bobs, and I have also re-rolled a two-handed axe, so at level 47 we can come and get this bad boy, provided we remember. Now, we also had a blood shard still to spend, and in episode 1 we got the blood tied blade, so we've got that in a cube, so we just need to roll phylacrates, and obviously we're hoping to get the iron rose. There we go, perfect. Now, unfortunately, it means we're going to have to use a one-handed scythe, but it's not the end of the world. You know, we're going to get a free blood nova, so that's pretty nice. So let's just craft one. Level 26. Oh, that's a bit low, isn't it? Maybe one-handed sword. Could we do that? Let's have a look. Yeah, one-handed sword, 35. That'll be fine. So we're going to be a little bit. We've got a little bit of a problem when we get to the two-handed weapon, but until then we can use this and it will be hunky-dory. So let's get Siphon Blood, and I think we'll go for Suppression, slightly more defensive. And guys, I think the plan is still just going to be to rift the whole way. It's certainly the most interesting thing for me to do. Don't find bounties particularly rewarding. I don't find massacre leveling particularly interesting either. Now, I was toying with the idea of cranking the difficulty up almost straight away, because it was fairly easy last time, but I definitely don't want to rip, so I think what we'll do is probably leave it on this difficulty for a little while until we get to 41, once we get the cheat death. And that should allow us to get our foot down a little bit. I probably also need to take Death Nova off. There's not much point having both Death Nova and Siphon Blood, because obviously I'm getting the free Novas from the Iron Rose. But there we are. Now, I'm hoping to do these episodes a little bit more frequently than this last one. I've just had quite a lot of stuff to get through. In real life, so you probably noticed I haven't actually posted a video for about 6 days or so, but I've just done a Wave of Light guide for the monk. It's really strong this season actually, because you can now take the squirts and also the Flavour of Time. Quite a lot of the time you can actually get a shield pylon, and it basically gives you invulnerability for like 2 minutes, which with the squirts is double damage for 2 minutes. So you can actually really dump out the damage as the Wave of Light Legacy Dreams monk, so it's really good. I'd like to say I've got the patience to fully augment it, because I've got a sneak suspicion it can probably do 90 in like 2.5 minutes, which is really quick. You know, there's an argument it's possibly even quicker than a multi-shot, but obviously I'd have to get them ranked up both to the same level to test them, and I'm not sure that I'm going to have the time to do it, just simply because there's other guides I want to do. I want to make some more build guides, I want to do some more speed guides. That invariably probably means playing some different classes. Now, on season wise, I've still got what have I got? I've got the Legacy of Dreams Rapid Fire that I want to have a go of. Never played that, so I'm quite keen to get that set up. That'd be pretty nice. And after that, I don't know if I'll probably do much more Demon Hunter, and the monk sets, again, I'm not sure whether I'll get to them or not on season. I might duck off and do some off-season builds, so perhaps some Wizard, maybe some Barbarian, because like Barb's class I've played an awful lot, but unfortunately I haven't played much on PC, it was all on Xbox. So the downside is all my Barbs that I've ever played pretty much have been on Xbox, and I don't know, you can't really do build guides on there. The UI is just so horrid. It's very difficult to see the items. It's it's actually logistically quite difficult, I find, to actually run through them. Because I did used to do a few build guides, and I've got some barb guides on the channel back from when I did pretty much only Xbox games, Xbox gameplay. But you'll probably notice I had to use a lot of screenshots just to show what the items were, and that's a real pain for like editing. It just takes absolutely ages to get all the pictures, import them. It's really slow. And also, actually, I've got a bit of an issue at the moment with stash space, because whilst I've worked through some of the stash tabs that I can get for the challenges and for the season journey, because I've barely played on PC, I've still got quite a lot of stash tabs to actually get. I think I've got another couple to go. So what I've actually done to try and get around that in the short term, and I don't know if I will keep it for the long term, is I've pretty much rolled Barb and Crusader on hardcore. So I've completely binned them off for softcore. So that's sort of solved my stash problem, because they both obviously share the same main stat and strength. But the downside is that obviously I don't have any of my Paragon, I don't have any of my gems, and I played a little bit of hardcore last season, but not a super huge amount, and I'm slowly kind of gearing them up. I'm getting, I'm trying to play and chip away at it, but obviously if I'm playing on season, I've got hardcore to do, I've got my Switch to do. What I'm getting at, it's a wonderful situation to be in. I've got so many characters to level and builds to do. It's just obviously slightly difficult for the time. So I would like to do cover Whirlwind, because I think that interests me a lot with the Crimson set. I think that looks like it's going pretty high, and that's a really fun speed build. Really good for speed rifts and for bounties. It was certainly when we had T13, and I'm hoping that with the Crimsons we'll be able to fire ourselves back up maybe into like T16 territory. That'd be quite nice. So I want to do that. I really want to do Legacy of Dreams Condemn. I think that's something that really interests me. I'm convinced myself that is a really good build in there to be done, just simply for the fact that the econ set works so well, and the multiplier on that compared to Legacy of Dreams is pretty tiny. But obviously, it's not something that you can do straight off the bat. I wouldn't imagine. It's going to require some gear. It's going to require some farming. So I'll probably jump off season and do a bit of that. I've also probably got to cover a Veer's push build, because again, it's one of the best builds, and I've done speeds for it, but I haven't really sort of sat down for quite some time and played it. I really should have salvaged all these phylacteries, shouldn't I? Never mind, let's go back to tab. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's going to be on the channel agenda really coming up. We've also got Modern Warfare coming out, the new COD game. Now, I'm not a massive COD player. I used to play quite a lot. It used to probably be I'd flick back and forth between Diablo and COD. They were the two games that I really enjoyed. I tend to basically play for, I don't know, probably about a month or two, and then after that I'm normally done, just because it tends to get very sweaty and it just becomes unfun to play. So I normally play the game quite a bit when it comes out at the start, first couple of months, and then I tend to find I actually have more fun playing offline with bots, and just mucking about and getting the kill streaks. It's a bit sad, but it is what it is. And yeah, I don't know, I might give it a go. It's probably, I think, out about now in terms of the date. I think it's certainly in the next hour or so. So I don't know whether I might pre-order it and get the bonus, so to play it early. But I might also just wait. Now I think we'll chuck Skeletal Mage Singularity on, just because it obviously hits like a truck. Have we got any runes on Blood Rush yet? Yeah, potency, brilliant. Right, okay, so another 4 levels, and then we've got the cheat death, and then another 6 after that. We can use the two-hander. Not brilliant, because we would like to keep the Iron Rose. So I don't know what, we'll have to have a look and I think when we get there to I mean, the two-hander just hits so hard, it probably is worth going for it. Because we can obviously keep the blood tide still in the pool, so I think we'll probably do that. So maybe this wasn't such a hot idea waiting for the Iron Rose, but never mind, we've got it now. We can still use Iron Rose at 70. You know, if we upgrade a scythe, one-handed scythe, we can use this level 35 Iron Rose. You know, not going to do us too much harm until we pick up a level 71. But going back to COD briefly, obviously it's on the Blizzard launcher, so I'm not sure if that's a game you guys are interested in seeing, or if you just prefer if we just kept it with completely Diablo content. The changes to COD look interesting. You know, it's the thing that always bums me out is the connection, because I've played a bit of Battlefield in the past, and I much prefer COD. I much prefer the fast-paced nature of it. You know, the randomness of it can be a bit of a pain sometimes, but it does give crappier players like myself a bit more of a chance, so there is something to be said for it. But what always bums me out, near enough always, is just the connection. It just never seems, I don't know if it's my internet, if I'm quite far away from wherever the service hub station or whatever it is, but it always seems to be laggy for me. And you get to the point, I think, after a couple of months of playing it, where you get to realise, well, I should have killed that guy, and you know, that's not what happened on my screen, and you know, things like that. It's it does get a little bit annoying. So I'm not sure. I might just wait for the open beta, which is this weekend, and just muck around with it for an hour or two. But I don't know. I might just not bother. I've got so much Diablo to play that I might just keep cracking on. And as I said in the last video, I'm still really enjoying the season. It's if I didn't have so many guides to do, I probably would still grind away at the season. I've pretty much fully augmented my UE set. I think I've only got 3 or 4 more pieces to do on that, with I think kind of like 90s and 100s. So I hit the first few days of the season pretty hard, trying to get up to 800 Paragon ASAP to do some videos, but other than that, it's been a bit more chill. So I probably only have about an hour or two a day to play games and do the recording and editing. You know, I've got a job, got wife and kids and that sort of stuff, so finding the time sometimes can be difficult. Every so often I do get lucky and I get a little bit of a longer play session, or the odd day here and there I get to, you know, put 3 or 4 hours in. And I suppose that probably does feed into my enjoyment of the game, because you know, with not hammering it 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, it does keep it fresh. In particular, swapping builds and characters. Like, it's lovely to come back on the Necro. I haven't played it all last season. Having done Demon Hunter and a bit of Monk, it really has freshened it up. So I would recommend anybody who's feeling maybe a little burnt out, or a little stale, it's always worthwhile considering rolling an extra class during the season. Obviously certain classes go together quite well, like Monk and DH. I've basically just been lazy and picked them because they've got the same main stat, so I can share conventions and amulets and all that kind of stuff, which has made it kind of handy. But I mean, if you do go and watch the Legacy of Dreams Monk guide, you'll see the gear's absolute trash, because, you know, being realistic, you need to put the hours in. If you want to get really good gear, you've got to go through the process of it. You've got to rift quite a lot, which again, I've done so many rifts this season, just mainly because the Demon Hunt is so quick and you can speed farm at such a high level. I feel like I've done an awful lot. I've completely been forgetting to use my singularity because I've been nattering away. But I do feel like I've found a lot more primals this season, which is kind of funny, because most of them have been absolute garbage. So last season I think I found probably about, I don't know, 6 or 7, maybe 8 usable primals, which was really nice. And I think that was probably about maybe almost like 1 in 4 of the primals I found was actually usable, which is stupidly high. And I suppose that regression to the mean was always likely to be around the corner, but this season most of them have been absolutely toilet. Like, I found a restraint, which was super stoked for, because it dropped and I looked at it and went, yep, that's definitely a restraint. going to be really useful for my UE Demon Hunter push build and some of the speed builds, and it rolled with life percent and all res, and absolutely gutting. I think I just salvaged it straight away. Blue Squishy Goblin. Now these things are so much fun on like 70 because obviously you blast them and they drop apart with legendaries and all sorts of goodies. Unfortunately, on before you get to 70, these things are almost a bit of a pain. You feel like compelled to blow them up, but you don't actually get much out of them. And you can see kind of one of the downsides, the limitations for Death Naver is it's obviously close range skill, and there's not much you can do range wise with it. So you do have to go chasing after targets a little bit, which is a bit of a pain. But yeah, the Primal Hunt, I don't know. I like Primals being in the game. I think it's nice that there is something that is completely uncraftable, and I think it's an RNG based game, so having that kind of thing that can drop at any time is potentially nice. It is useful. Right, let's get these gloves on. Our trousers will upgrade. We'll take these. Boots, we'll go for them. Chest piece is better. Ooh, that's a nice upgrade. And I think the rest of it will probably just bin off. But yeah, primals, I think it would be kind of nice if they meant a little more. So by that, I'm not like I've come back and forth over the whole kind of should they be craftable, should they not, and I do think actually, as I say, that craftable would probably be a bad idea. It's not, having them collectible is definitely cool, but what I do think is that it is a bit of a slap in the face that you only get 15 Forgotten Souls for them. That seems a little disproportionate given how rare they are. So they probably should, I don't know, have some kind of better benefit, like dropping a challenge rift bag when you salvage one would be really nice. That'd be quite a cool change. I can't see that happening. Maybe increasing the number of Forgotten Souls would be nice. But yeah, it still feels really good to find them. I do enjoy finding them. But you do get to the point where you do, obviously lots of them are just so trash and worthless, and the 15 Forgotten Souls doesn't really feel like good payback for finding them. But they have said, Blizzard, I think in the last blog post, that they're going to look at some quality of life changes, so that is potentially something that maybe they'll look at. Maybe redo some of the crafting systems, salvage systems. That would be potentially quite nice, quite interesting. Now, I did actually ask on the community tab for the channel if there was anything that anyone wanted me to discuss in particular, so I think a couple of people got back to me. The guy who asked for the Wywood build, so that's a ring that I think gives stun chance on lightning damage. I'm gonna guess that he's found a primal and that they want to make a build out of it. Realistically, I'll be honest, it's not an item I've ever used. Can't say I've ever used it. Forgetting to teleport again. Doing far too much chatting. But it's hard to sort of think as to really how you, for what great purpose you could incorporate that, because I'd say probably one of the class that springs to my mind when I think about stuns is obviously Necro, because of the Crispins and getting the 300% bonus against stunned enemies, but then Necro doesn't use lightning damage, so you can't really see how you'd ever get that effect up. And in terms of rings, I mean, that's a fairly crappy legendary power, really, isn't it? 25% chance to stun. It's not particularly good, so I kind of think that's probably why I haven't used it. But the good thing about Legacy Dreams is that it is so powerful, the multiplier. You know, you probably could take it off and create something bespoke, but I personally don't have any ideas. It's not something I've used before, but interesting. And I'll segue kind of into the next one, which I'll link back to the Ywood, which is somebody was asking, is it quicker, or are there ever circumstances where it's better to start off going for the Legacy of Dreams? We best put this cheat death on, haven't we? We can take Overwhelming Essence off because we don't need that. So final service. So there we go. We're off and away. Now, Legacy of Dreams, I would really like it if it was the first gem to drop every season. And the reason for that is because, I think I've mentioned a few times, last season with the Legacy of Nightmares, I went Necro, and I just fancied not doing the season journey. It's something I've done for, I don't know, the last 6 seasons in a row beforehand, and I just fancied a bit of a break from it. And it was really nice having the long buff from the start, and just basically kind of what we're going to do with this, because I've used my Haedrigs already so far this season, so we're going to basically go with whatever we find on the ground and build as we go. And I kind of like that. It is nice, it's good just finding upgrades as you go. It kind of draws the process of the whole kind of upgrades out, which is nice. Now, is it ever likely to be more efficient than going for the sets? Probably not. I think for this season I kind of suggested you could maybe bin it off as a wizard player and just try and get your hands on some Via's gear, but being realistic, it is obviously hard to do that. The Chantodo one's pretty rare, it's pretty hard to get, and it's certainly a thing. You can do it, but I think last season it was really fun doing it. But I think actually when I came to look at my efficiency, I was looking at the board early on, and I did play quite a lot at the start of last season. Not so much opening night because I had to go out somewhere, so I probably only played for about 2 hours. But over the course of the weekend I clocked up some okay time, not like, you know, nowhere near 8 hours a day or anything like that. And I was sort of thinking, well, I was looking at everyone else's characters and going, crikey, they're so much further ahead. And I think actually in hindsight it would have been a much more efficient thing to do to go and get the Inaria set for last season. So I don't think it's ever really going to be more efficient, but it's potentially more fun, and you know, realistically that's a big part of the game. As we said in the last episode, if you're not having fun playing a game, then you're definitely doing it wrong. There's something wrong. You know, it's entertainment at the end of the day. This is definitely my my preferred form of entertainment. Now, linking this back to the Ywood, and I kind of touched on this last episode, I think. My real hope for the next few patches is that we get lots of legendary powers added. So you look at Ywood, and you know, I can't think of a use for it, really. I can't say I've ever used it in a build, and I've been playing the game a long time, and I don't recall ever seeing a build guide with it. I've got none in my stash. I've never saved one, just simply for the fact that I don't think I'd use it. If I found a primal one, I would invariably salvage it. And I think one of the things that they could do to improve the game is to kind of stop that from happening. So try and maximise what you've already got in the game. So by that, what I mean is that you take items like in this last patch that aren't used, and you give them a power. So Flavour of Time is a classic, really good example. That is now an extremely usable amulet, and it's got a really good power. It doubles the pylon length, which is an interesting mechanic in of itself. You know, it's quite novel for the game. We haven't had anything like that in there so far. There was no power on it, or if there was, it was a rubbish one. Legendary chest armor. Maybe that's a Heart of Iron. Don't know, we'll have to see. But yeah, they could add legendary powers to absolutely stacks of items. There's stacks of useless items in this game. And what I think you're looking to do, really, and this last patch, one of the reasons I did enjoy it, and again I can't remember if I said this last episode, but it's kind of created a bit more choice in the game in terms of what it is that you're selecting. Now there will normally be, you know, meta considerations as a most efficient time available, or whatever it stands for. So there is normally an item that is best in slot. But what I found creating builds up until this last season is that very often the best in slot is not just best in slot as in it's marginally better, it's best in slot by an absolute mile, and there is absolutely no circumstance that you would consider taking any other item in its place. And I think the interesting balance for this last patch I found when making builds and doing guides has been the back and forth between, do I want to take a squirt or do I want to take a flavour of time? Because they're both, you know, both necklaces, they've both got new powers this season, but they're both quite powerful. And if you get onto something like Shadow Impaled Demon Hunter, which normally runs with a Compass Rose and Traveller's Pledge, and you've chuck a Hellfire amulet in, all of a sudden you've kind of got 4 or 5 different amulets that potentially you could use for the build, and they all offer something slightly different. The bonuses for them are all different, and you've got that kind of hard choice from your gearing, as in, do I want to go for option 1, you know, 2, 3 or 4, and that's kind of what I like. I you know, I do a lot of build guides, I do almost a lot of the time feel like it's just blunt force repetition, because it's always Nemesis braces, it's always you know, Ingeum features quite a lot, and I think that's kind of, you know, the Reaver, the Messerschmitt Reaver being added was nice because it encouraged me to put it in a few builds, and you can now kind of make an argument occasionally if you say, well actually this is better than taking, you know, Riley in a Shadow Hook, for example. So my real hope is that we do get more and more powers added over and over again, and that it basically, we get to the point where there are gear based driven decisions, because I'm quite happy that the game's loot is loot based driven, and by that I mean gear as well. So I'm going to have to hold my thoughts on this, because I think we've got a couple of legendaries to identify here. So I've obviously said my prayers to Orange Jesus today. So that's the we've got the chest piece that gives us guaranteed critical hits when below 22% life. So again, this is an item, this really should be buffed. You don't want to be rocking it under 25% life. You just, you know, it's not where you want to be. We'll use it obviously. Oh, and that's a nice one. The funerary pick. Let's see, do we get any other upgrades? Yeah, better shoulders, that's nice. We're going to leave the Lorix on for the bonus, and I think we'll get rid of the rest. No, I haven't closed the rift. Annoying when I forget to do that. Now, we can do a little bit of live testing here, because this is something I've always wanted to know as to whether we actually get 3 Blood Novas proccing from the Siphon Blood. So the Funerary Pick gives us extra Siphon Bloods, so we get to drain it from 2 targets, or 3 targets, 2 additional ones. I'm just wondering whether we get any extra Siphon Bloods from that, so we'll have to find out. Probably should have put something in there. That'll do. Extra 20 intelligence. And we'll just dump these gems quickly in the stash. Right, so let's see, will we get any extra Blood Novas? That would be really cool if we did. I don't think we do, because I haven't heard of anybody suggesting running this. Doesn't look like it, which is a bit of a bummer. Yeah, that would be a nice change. Again, it would make Funerary Pick somewhat usable, because again, I mean, like, you think of that, 1 in 4 of the Necro scythes is completely unusable. There is just nobody running around with a Funerary Pick towards, not even endgame, you know, past sort of the very earliest parts of the game, and that's just silly. So that means every time you find an ancient legendary scythe, 25% of the time it's completely worthless. And as I say, that's the kind of thing that I'd like this game to, I think it's an area they could improve, because having worthless items is just really, really silly. Right, I think what we're going to do is we're going to crank the difficulty up after this rift, because we're not really taking any damage, so I think we can afford to go a bit higher. Got good gear, got some legendaries. We're about to get the two-hander, so I think we'll maybe have a little run at expert and see how that goes. We can always turn it back down, wuss out if it's too scary. As I say, it's definitely more fun than doing bounties, so that's kind of nice. Now, I've had a few comments about RNG lately on some of my builds. I do find it quite funny that you know, I try and make guides, try and be really helpful, so I tend to tell people either percentage chances of getting things, or you know, if something's easy to get or a build's easy to put together, I'll try and sort of say, look, you know, guys, this is something that's worthwhile going for. It's not a hard one to set up. And normally by that, I'll give a bit of explanation, say there's not many of these items in the loot pool, so it might be, you know, I think this one particular guy was not very happy that he'd rolled 30 goes at a two-handed axe and hadn't found a Messerschmitt's Reaver. Now obviously RNG's just RNG. It's, you know, if you've got a high chance of it coming in, so 25%, well, it's still 75% you're not going to find it, and there will be those unlucky people who roll 20, 30 plus times and still don't find the item they want. It's, you know, I think I had another guy once complaining that he hadn't had an ancient Aquila Cuirass. I know, obviously it's frustration. I understand that, you know, it's frustrating to watch a build guide and somebody say it's easy to put together, and if you haven't found the pieces, you know, maybe it's a bit annoying, but it's kind of like, well, I can't really tailor my advice to everybody. You know, every video would be pretty boring if I had to give an explanation of RNG every time we went through a build, but, you know, it gets the best of me. I mean, like, I was convinced primals had been turned off this season, because I got my first one, and it was, I mean, I can't remember, I was like over Paragon 800 by the time I got my second one. And, you know, it is that part of your brain that does just keep going, oh well, maybe there's a mistake, maybe there's something wrong. But, you know, again, primal, it's like a 1 in 400 drop chance, so, you know, conceivably you can go quite a while without seeing one. But it is just RNG, it's just a, you know, numbers based game. I think the kind of the randomness of it, you know, does give some of the appeal. Now I think another thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit was the kind of, oh look, another legendary. I've definitely in RNG's good books today. But another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was the game design choices for D4. So I watch the New Meta podcast on YouTube every week. I work in YouTube myself, so I've kind of got it open pretty much a lot of the time. So I tend to put it on maybe if I'm doing a spot of work, maybe, or, you know, doing something around the house. And the poll, I think last week, was quite interesting, because it was basically sort of saying, for Diablo 4, how do you want the game to be progressed? Do you want it to be skill based, so kind of like runes, and the rune you select is going to be determining kind of how your character looks, behaves, does damage and that sort of thing. Do you want it as like a passive tree? It's kind of more like classic Diablo where you get points to attribute, and you're maybe more into kind of permanency and permanent choice. Or the way that the game currently is for Diablo 3, which is that it's gear based. So you kind of find the right items to run the builds, and you know, Necro can run any build that they want provided they have the items. Now obviously as a casual player and only playing for a little bit each day, I'm a big fan of the gear based approach, because if you stop doing a gear based approach and you have to rank a character up from scratch, if let's say you're going to say the rank up process from 0 to level 70s, you know, in this current game is probably about 4 hours on average. Ooh, that's a good build. If let's just look through this gear before we carry on these ramblings. Better braces. Yeah, these trousers look better. So I'll salvage those other ones and stick the gems in. We also need to up the difficulty. I think we'll give it a go, see how it is. Right. See if we can't speed along. So I don't know. Bit nervous about this, but we'll give it a try. Up the difficulty, see if we can get a bit more XP, a bit quicker. Now, one thing a lot of people say don't bother going for expert. I mean, more XP, still more XP, but master I think we'll go for, and maybe we'll be able to leave it on this the whole rest of the way. That would be quite a nice little XP boost. Probably won't turn it up even once we get the two-hander in, just because I think from memory there's no vitality on it, so we're going to end up squishy, so that's no good. This is where I need a chat function, because I absolutely cannot remember what on earth I was talking about. But never mind, on we press. So a couple more levels and we can get that ball of weapon, so I probably should have put it in my inventory so I can just simply swap to it. So plenty of damage for master difficulty. Just have to remember to keep my bone armor stacks up, and also potency activated, because that's going to be quite helpful. Knockback's quite an annoying mechanic. I would quite like not to have to sacrifice my braces to get rid of that. One I think area that again they probably could improve, and this is kind of become apparent to me from doing so many of Legacy Dreams builds, because that's pretty much all I did last season for Necro, is that the trouser selection in this game, pardon the pun, is absolutely pants. There are so few trousers that actually do anything. Like the Hexing Pants Mistian, that's a really interesting item. You get extra damage and resource gen if you're moving, and if you stand still you lose it, so it obviously promotes a kind of run and gun playstyle where you've got to be on the move and dump out damage. That's really cool. Depth Diggers give you a multiplier on primary skills, I think, so you know, that's fine, but obviously primary skills tend not to hit particularly hard, so there aren't that many builds that use them. And then past that you've got Swampland Waders for the Witch Doctor, giving a little bit of elemental damage, but there's not really much interesting. So I'd like a pair of pants that made you immune to knockback. You know, you took the, you know, you could add them as new, a third item for the Krelm set maybe or something, or just stick it on a random pair of pants. Because lots, like even Poxfolds, you know, the legendary affix on that is outdated now. It's not, you know, just not going to use it. It's not worth it. So I think more interesting trousers would be good. Again, probably for boots, I think the ice climbers are going to be more popular now because, as somebody commented on the last video, and I've heard it's true, I haven't tested it, so straight from the mouths of babes, but the idea is that you can take the stone gauntlets and you can wear ice climbers, and if you do that, you get all the positive benefits of the stone gauntlets, so an extra 250% armor, and you negate any of the negative benefits, which is really nice. So ice climbers are quite useful, but other than that, there's not many. I mean, like Necro's, there's a pair of boots the Necro's got. I can't remember what they're called, but you get it's got a really cool effect on it. You get a percentage chance to get a free bone nova when attacking with bone spikes. Now, if they made that up to 100%, I think that would be better. But unfortunately, you've got the problem of no build is going to use bone spikes because there's just not enough other supporting legendary items. But if they gave a multiplier to bone spikes as well, that could be quite interesting, or a multiplier to bone nova. You know, like, I think Legacy of Dreams is something I'm really into. I really do like gearing out the builds. I love flexibility in builds. I think it's a little boring when it's just the same skills over and over and over again. You know, back onto the kind of the flexibility and diversity. So again, more boots would be really cool. You know, who doesn't like showing off their shoes? Now, I think we're going to do about an hour today. I don't have too much time because I'm due somewhere for dinner. I thought we'll sneak an hour in, and then for the next one we'll probably just burn it to 70 because I want to get to 70 as soon as possible, because the loot pool just obviously gets so much more interesting. We start getting Paragon, and we can start getting DBs, re-rolling things. But as you can see, I mean, this is, I don't know how far we can go in just a little over 2 hours. We've not pushed it very much at all. We've been chatting, not using the skills properly, forgetting to do the Skeletal Mage again, for example. And, you know, it's been pretty comfortable. Level 47 is not too bad. So, Necro, as I say, I think it does get almost a little bit of a bad rap for being squishy, and I'm hopefully going to prove that over the next few episodes once we get to 270. But, you know, bone armor, 30% damage reduction the entire way through leveling, that's pretty nice. You know, there are some things you can do. Standalone obviously is a really nice passive, which we've got on, so that's given us some extra armor. And now it is time to bring out the big dog. So I think we're going to leave the Iron Rose in here for now. We'll stick that on, and this should now in theory be pretty much easy mode. So we'll just whack a few more of these upgrades on. Yep, stick some gems in. Okay, we'll keep it as it is on the difficulty. We'll go back to Death Nova, and I think we had bone spikes on, didn't we? Just as a generator. So everything should literally just salvage the gear. Everything should just literally fly apart now, which obviously will be pretty nice. So we'll do a few rifts, and then again, one of the problems if you do stick it up to Torment 1, Torment 2, you very quickly get outgeared because you level so quickly, and it does kind of make the last few levels a little bit more painful, but we'll see how we go. Yeah. And again, you've got a slight issue in terms of you're not banging these rifts out really quickly. You know, your bone armor drops off and all that kind of stuff. But our biggest battle now is going to be resource. But yeah, maybe it wasn't worth saving the blood shards. That's something, you know, you learn something every day, so I think I'll probably incorporate that in my next Necro starter guide and say it's probably not worth going for the Iron Rose because you're going to get stuck dumping it for your two-handed upgrade. So with the reduced level requirement. So that's interesting, I hadn't really thought about that before. Again, that was another item that got buffed, not last patch, the patch before, and it's nice. You know, it's given us a kind of various different Nova builds, which is fun. So as I said, last episode, played pretty much all season on that. It was fun. Really enjoyed it. Be interesting to see when I proc for the first time. I'm going to assume that'll be when we turn the difficulty up a little bit to level 70, but obviously not something I want to happen. But as I was saying last time, you need to push yourself a little bit maybe sometimes. So I don't know. If I wasn't filming this, I probably would try to torment one, but I don't want to die, so you know, it is what it is. Now I think one of the comments on the last video, which I quite appreciated, was basically somebody said don't worry too much about chatting Diablo the whole time. I mean, as you can probably tell, I'm quite passionate about the game, got quite a lot of thoughts on it. I don't use the forums that much. I mean, I certainly don't post on them. Don't post on Reddit, but I do check in from time to time just to see what's going on, see if there's any interesting stories that maybe people would want to watch videos about. But in terms of non-Diablo chat, as I was saying earlier, this video games has always been my mode of entertainment. I mean, I'm a massive football fan, so soccer for everybody in America. So that takes up quite a lot of my spare time away from Diablo. But I love movies. I do love TV. But what I tend to find is that if I've got any spare time on my own, I tend to just fire the computer up, and I like playing video games. I've always found them more engaging. I like the sense of control that you're doing something. But I have recently been getting into Suits. Somebody recommended that to me ages ago. I just didn't bother picking it up, and I'm really glad that I have now because it is good. Yeah, do really like that. It's a good show and it's fun. And I used to be a lawyer, so it's it's quite close to my heart. It's obviously it's a ridiculous show, but there's quite a lot of it that I do recognise and go, yep, there were a few people like that who I used to work with. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm quite excited for the new Terminator film. I mean, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't be. It's probably going to be crap. All my friends tell me it's going to be crap, but it's an IP that I really like. It's a shame they haven't. The first two are amazing, obviously. In particular, the second one, that was absolutely generational for me. It was such a good film. Action, state-of-the-art CGI, really good acting, really good character depth from Sarah Connor. I didn't mind 3 so much, and Salvation I remember thinking was okay when I saw it at the movies, but some of the later ones have not been particularly good. But I'm an idiot. I watched trailers and I went to see the new Predators film again. I saw the trailer, I thought this looks really cool. I love Predators so much, and certainly the first one, and I kind of just keep thinking at some point somebody's got to get one of these reboots right. They're going to make a good film, like Christopher Nolan did with the Batman. And James Cameron's back. He's producing, not directing, so that's interesting. It's got the director from Deadpool doing it, and I thought Deadpool was pretty good. So I'm kind of excited. It's probably letting myself in for a fall, because it seems from checking out YouTube videos and stuff, it does seem like it's another one of these identity politics films, which is a shame, because I've got absolutely zero issue with women being in movies. Some, as I say, Sarah Connor, fantastic female character. Sigourney Weaver in Alien and Aliens is just brilliant. Definitely one of my all-time favourite characters and favourite films. But we have had quite a few movies lately where it just seems like they've kind of just gone, well, we're just going to make this a female lead with no character depth. And to be honest, like, male characters with no character depth are crap. I basically just don't want to watch crap films. But I'm super hopeful for Terminator. As I say, the trailer looks good. I've heard it's going to be like R-rated or an 18. Or I don't know. Yeah, R-rated in America, isn't it? 18 here in New York. How it used to be when I was a kid. So I'm kind of excited for that. They're also remaking Top Gun, which I think is quite funny. Again, that's a film I really like. I haven't watched it for an absolute age because I'm kind of worried that it's probably crap, and I just remember it really fondly. You know the way with some movies, they age really well. Like going back to Terminator 2, I watched that probably about a year or so ago, and I really enjoyed it still. I was just like, oh, it was so good. I hadn't seen it for like 10 years or something, and it was just as I remembered it. And Arnie going, I know now why you cry, and all that kind of stuff. It was really, really cool. And then sometimes you can watch something back, particularly from your childhood, and just go, oh my god, that is absolute trash. Why on earth? Why did I I know as a kid, but why did I like that? So I'd say definitely on that list is He-Man, Masters of the Universe. I loved that film when I was a kid. It was about, 8 or 10. I thought it was the absolute best film that had ever been made. Gwildor and Cosmic Key, it's just amazing. And I'm really scared to watch it back, just in case it's because I imagine it's absolute turd. I'm sure my mum and dad taking me to go watch it were like, what the hell's this garbage? But you have to I don't know. Yeah, I should watch it. I've got a son who's 9, so maybe he'd enjoy it. Maybe he'd sit through it with me, but I am scared. But yeah, I haven't actually been to the movies for quite a while. I think the last thing I went to see was Avengers, which I did like, but I didn't like it as much as the last one, and I was quite let down and a bit disappointed with some of the character choices. Whilst it was a good film, and I'm keen to see it again, but again, I'm a little nervous. I've got a friend who really loves the Marvel films, and we go to watch pretty much all of them together, and he loved it. I'm a little nervous that the things that bugged me the first time round are going to be even worse the second time, which kind of happened to me with The Force Awakens. I went to the cinema to see that. Came away thinking, there were some good bits in that. Some of that film was quite good, and some of it was obviously very crap, and quite not disturbing, but it was just bad. And then I watched it again when it came out on the TV, and my god, it was awful. I could barely watch it for a second run through. I'm sure Avengers won't be like that. I'm sure I'll probably appreciate it a bit more, particularly once I've got used to a couple of the character changes and arcs that they went on. But yeah, that's on the list to do. But I need to get to the movies a bit more. I do like it, but we've been having some renovations to the house. It's just been so busy. Just haven't really had the chance to go. Plus that, and as I say, there's so many games to play. Like, I'm loving the Switch. The Switch has been really good, and they've recently added a SNES emulator on there. So they had a NES one, Nintendo Entertainment System. So that was nice, because that was the first games console I ever owned. So it's nice playing things from the past, and going back to, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years old maybe, knocking about on Mario. That was really good. But again, you go back and you look at some of the games, and it's fun and it's a bit of nostalgia, but you do realise just how limited they were. And the SNES, I think actually that was quite a big jump, because I've been playing a bit of Mario Kart and a bit of Super Tennis, and you know, I've actually been having fun playing it, even though obviously the games are old and stuff. And I haven't tried. I used to love the Zelda game on there. I haven't fired that up yet, so there's plenty to do. I'm also quite keen to try out the Marvel game. So I think we'll do one more Rift, and then we'll power to 70 on episode 3, I think. So I'm keen to try out the Marvel game on the Switch. It's being classed as an ARPG, which, having looked at a review and some of the gameplay, I don't really think it can be classed as that. But it does. It looks super casual. You know, it's just like almost like a really like a really long big beat 'em up. And I used to like Double Dragon and stuff like that back in the day, so I'm kind of interested to see. But I mean, it's like £45, so I don't know what that is in dollars. Probably about $60. Not sure I want to be paying that for a handheld Switch game, but I don't know. If any of you have played it and it's worth it, let me know. Got quite a decent amount of luck with these conduit pylons as well today. It's been quite handy. So probably could do with considering taking off. What have we got here? Sword. That's going to be no use, isn't it? Probably could do taking off maybe Corpse Explosion and putting on Devour, just to make sure we've got enough essence to cast out these Death Novas, because we are running out a little bit on juice sometimes. That's one of the things about Necro. It's one of the classes that doesn't regen its essence, which at certain times is quite annoying, because it just means you got to generate it yourself. Which, when you're only really doing damage with your spender, means that all the ways that you have to generate it are kind of worthless. Now Necro's one of the few classes that really doesn't use focus and restraint. So again, back onto the kind of like gear options and diversity. I think if they could add a way of maybe making a generator, sorry, if they could add a way of a generator being decent, then you potentially could get an FNR build up. But Necro Jewelry is very powerful, so it's prime real estate, the ring slots. So I don't know, maybe you won't get there. With Nova and Anarius, I kind of toyed around with making a build guide, but I never kind of put anything together that I was comfortable with, and there always just seemed to be better choices. It always just seemed inevitably better to take the convention, and that does get a bit of an unfair stick, I think. I don't know, maybe people are just bored of using the same thing over and over again and again. Convention of elements is one of those things that it does tend to make its way into a lot of builds. A lot of my guides use it just for spike damage and killing Rift Guardians and that sort of stuff. But if you could get a bit more diversity, that would be good. And the same goes for the legendary gems, really. You know, it's, I don't know what, if you took every build guide ever made on Diablo fans or Reddit or YouTube, and let's say you were gonna only consider ones that are, you know, seriously made, as in like they're genuinely trying to be good builds, so not somebody saying, oh, this is a laugh and I'm just gonna do this one because it looks cool, which I don't really think there are many people doing that. But if you took that and worked out what percentage, I mean, Jesus, art and Jesus, what a way to end this episode. Double legendary drop, so don't worry, we'll have a look at those, see what they are in time for next episode. But yeah, I think you'd find that like 90% plus, 90 99% plus would probably use the Bane of the Trapped. And if you then split it down into Bane of the Powerful, you'd find that on absolutely loads of them. And you know, range builds, Zone of Vengeance. And again, you're back onto kind of like, make the choices hard. It's one of the cool things about Legacy Dreams is you restrict yourself to only 2 gem slots, and that actually does make choosing harder. It's pretty much choice of 1 actually, if you think about it, because if you're going to take the Bane of the Trapped for every build, then you are pretty much only picking 1 extra legendary gem. And what I would like... Oh, nearly procced them. Didn't think I was stood in that explosion. There you go, guys. Nearly procced at the end of the episode. But yeah, I would like more diversity in legendary gems. That would be really nice. Right. Just need to blow these guys up. Oh, my goodness me. This is ridiculous now. It's a shame I keep finding swords because I can't actually use them. Because the two-hander that we've got, we're not going to give that up. Now, if we've got really lucky, that ring will be the Circle of Nilusia Vol. I mean, we're at level 50, so it's quite unlikely because I think we've got a fair few rings in the pool at this point. Haven't opened up any Reapers of Soul gear. Oh, and is that a goblin? Yeah. I think we could do Torment 1, you know. Really do think we could do Torment 1. We'll see what gear we get. We might crank it up to Torment 1 for the next episode. We'll see. Some blood shards. Right, let's go back to town, look at this gear, and then we'll call that a day for episode 2, I think. I don't think I've ever found so many legendary items leveling before. This is absolutely nuts. Ha! Well, there you go. We're going to have to use the wirewood. How's that for irony? That's quite funny. Yeah, 25% chance to stun lightning damage. Don't have lightning damage. Never mind. And two of these. Nice. Okay, right guys, that's it. That's the end of episode 2. I will probably bump it up to Torment 1 for at least part of the next episode. We'll definitely get to 17 the next hour, and then that's where the fun begins. We'll get looking for that Legacy Dreams gem and start building a tough and tanky Necro. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.